It was an ordinary morning when Maya stepped into the small coffee shop on the corner of the street, a place she had passed by countless times but had never dared to enter. The door chimed softly as she pushed it open, the warm aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. She wasn't looking for anything in particular, just a place to sit and think, away from the chaos of her apartment. She had just moved to the city, starting over after a messy breakup that still haunted her thoughts. Every corner of her life seemed to remind her of the relationship she had left behind. As she walked up to the counter, her eyes scanned the menu, though she wasn't sure what she wanted. The barista greeted her with a smile, and for a moment, Maya forgot her worries. She ordered a cappuccino, the familiar warmth of the drink offering a small sense of comfort. As she waited, she glanced around the shop, her eyes landing on a man sitting at a corner table. He had a book open in front of him, but his gaze was distant, as if he wasn't really reading. There was something about him that caught her attention. Maybe it was the way he sat, relaxed and unbothered, or the way his dark hair fell over his eyes, giving him an air of mystery. She quickly looked away, feeling a flush rise to her cheeks. She wasn't in the mood for distractions, not today. She had enough of that in her life already. Her order was called, and as she picked up the cup, she glanced back at the man again. This time their eyes met. His gaze was calm, almost as if he had been waiting for her to look up. She froze, not sure how to react. Was he smiling at her? She couldn't tell. "Hi," he said, his voice low and warm. Maya blinked, unsure whether he was talking to her. "Hi," she replied, her voice softer than she intended. "Is this seat taken?" He gestured to the empty chair across from him. Maya hesitated. She didn't want to sit with a stranger, especially not today, but something about his calm demeanor made her feel like it might be okay. "No, it's not," she said, surprising herself. He smiled, a slow and genuine smile that made her heart skip a beat. As she sat down, she felt the strange pull of curiosity. What did he want? Why was he speaking to her? "I'm Adam," he said, setting his book down on the table. "I noticed you were new here. Haven't seen you around before." "Maya," she replied, her fingers tightening around the handle of her cup. "I just moved here." "Ah, a fellow newcomer," Adam said with a nod. "How's the city treating you so far?" "Well, it's different," Maya answered, a slight laugh escaping her lips. "I'm still getting used to it." Adam leaned back in his chair, his eyes sparkling with interest. "I get it. It can be a bit overwhelming at first, but it grows on you." "Where are you from?" "Small town," she said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. She wasn't usually one to share much about herself, especially with strangers, but something about Adam made her feel comfortable. "You?" "Same," he replied with a grin. "Small town, big city. You know how it is." Maya nodded, a sense of camaraderie forming between them. They were both trying to adjust to a life that felt foreign and strange. As they continued to chat, the conversation flowed easily. They talked about their favorite books, movies, and the struggles of adjusting to city life. Maya found herself laughing more than she had in weeks, the weight of her recent breakup lifting ever so slightly. Adam was easy to talk to. He had a way of making everything seem lighter, like nothing was too serious. And Maya realized, for the first time in a long while, that she had forgotten to think about her ex. For just a few minutes, she felt like a person again, not just a person who had been hurt. "You should come by more often," Adam said as the conversation started to wind down. "I'll be here most mornings, reading or working. We can swap book recommendations." Maya smiled, but a small voice inside her reminded her of the mess she was still trying to sort through in her life. She wasn't ready for anything new, not yet. "I'll think about it," she said, though a part of her wanted to say yes. Just as they were about to say goodbye, the door to the coffee shop opened and a woman walked in, her eyes immediately locking onto Adam's. Maya's stomach twisted for some reason she couldn't explain. The woman approached their table, her expression warm but directed only at Adam. "Hey," the woman said, her voice high-pitched in that way that made Maya instantly feel like an outsider. "Long time no see." Adam's face softened, and Maya felt a pang of discomfort. She wanted to leave before the situation got any more awkward. But she forced herself to stay seated, even as the woman continued to stand there, eyeing her with a strange look. "Hey, Sarah," Adam said, looking up at the woman with a half-smile. "How's everything?" Maya could feel the tension in the air as the two of them exchanged a few words. She stood up abruptly, unsure of what to say or do. I should go," Maya said quickly, her heart racing. She grabbed her cup and turned to leave, the sudden discomfort making her want to escape. "Wait," Adam said, standing up too quickly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Maya, But Maya didn't wait. She was already halfway out the door, the cold air outside hitting her face like a slap. Her mind was racing. Who was that woman? Why did Adam seem so familiar with her? Was this a mistake? She should have known better than to start talking to someone new, especially someone who seemed too perfect. She stepped onto the sidewalk, trying to push the thought of Adam and his strange, sudden connection with the woman out of her mind. She had been foolish to even think this could go anywhere. The door to the coffee shop closed behind her, but the strange feeling lingered. She didn't even realize she hadn't exchanged contact details with him until she was already too far away. But maybe it was for the best. Maybe she wasn't ready for anything new, not just yet. Still, as she walked down the street, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last time she would see him. Maya didn't expect to see him again, not after that awkward moment in the coffee shop. She had told herself that it was just a chance encounter, nothing more. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. It was a Wednesday afternoon when she walked into the same cafe, desperate for a few quiet moments away from the chaos of her work and the noise of her thoughts. She had almost forgotten about Adam until she walked through the door and spotted him sitting at the same corner table, his book resting in front of him, his fingers drumming lightly on the cover. For a moment, Maya hesitated at the door, her pulse quickening. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this. The memory of their last meeting, the way she had walked out so abruptly, lingered in her mind. But, to her surprise, Adam looked up as soon as the door chimed and their eyes met. His expression softened instantly. "Maya," he said, his voice calm, though there was an unmistakable tension in the air. Maya paused, feeling a mix of confusion and hesitation. She wasn't sure whether to approach him or leave. Her heart fluttered in her chest. Was this awkward for him too? She had left so suddenly last time, without a word, and now here he was, sitting at the same table as if nothing had happened. "Hi," she said, forcing a smile, her voice sounding much smaller than she intended. Adam smiled in return, but there was a strange uncertainty in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, standing up as if he wanted to come over to her. "I didn't mean to make things weird last time." "No, it's not your fault," Maya replied quickly. I wasn't ready for all of that, you know." He nodded, understanding. "I get it. But I didn't expect to see you again. Not like this." Maya glanced down at the floor for a moment, unsure of what to say. She had been avoiding this very situation for weeks, telling herself that it was better to leave things behind. But here he was, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. There was something about him that made her feel both nervous and excited, as if they were dancing around something bigger than either of them. "So," Adam said, breaking the silence, "what brings you back to this place?" Maya blinked, not expecting the question. "I don't know. I guess I like the quiet here. It's different." He smiled slightly. Yeah, it's the only place in the city where I can actually concentrate. Maybe it's the smell of coffee or the fact that it feels like no one's really paying attention. Maya chuckled softly, feeling a little more at ease. Yeah, maybe. It's nice. They stood there for a moment, unsure of how to proceed. Maya had already walked into the cafe once today, determined not to think about Adam, but now that she was standing here, with him so close, it felt like the last few weeks hadn't happened. There was an undeniable pull between them. I should probably get back to work, Maya said, her eyes darting toward the counter, the escape route in her mind. Adam nodded, but there was a flicker of frustration in his gaze. Maya, I'm not trying to pressure you. But I don't know if I can just let this go. I mean, what happened between us? It was real, right? She looked at him, his earnest expression making her heart skip a beat. But she wasn't ready. She couldn't be. The idea of opening up to someone again, after everything she had been through, felt like a risk she wasn't sure she could take. I'm not ready for something like this, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I just don't think I can be with anyone right now. Adam sighed, clearly frustrated, but trying to hide it. I get that. I do. I don't understand why we keep running into each other if there's nothing here. Maya's breath caught. She hadn't expected him to say that. There was a raw honesty in his words, a sincerity that made her question everything she had been telling herself. Maybe she wasn't as over her past as she thought. Maybe she was just using it as an excuse not to feel anything. The last few months of her life had been a blur, and Adam, this man she barely knew, was starting to feel like something she couldn't walk away from. Maybe we're just not meant to meet right now, Maya said, her words more to herself than to him. Maybe it's just bad timing. Adam frowned, the edge of his lips curling downward. I don't believe in bad timing, he said firmly. I believe in people making the decision to take a chance. You just have to decide if you're willing to take it with me. Maya was quiet for a long moment, the weight of his words pressing down on her. She had been hurt so many times before, and she had built walls around herself to keep from feeling the pain again. But in the back of her mind, she knew that this wasn't something she could keep avoiding. The pull between them was too strong, the desire to know him too real. I don't know if I can, she admitted, her voice cracking slightly. I'm scared, Adam. He took a step closer, his expression softening. I understand. But what if you don't have to be scared? What if we could just take it slow, one step at a time? Maya looked at him, his words sinking in, the wall she had built starting to crumble. She wasn't ready to fully dive in, but maybe, just maybe, she could give this a chance. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to let herself feel again. Okay, she said finally, her voice steady but soft. One step at a time. Adam smiled, relief washing over him like a wave. I promise I won't rush you. We'll take it slow. The tension between them began to ease, but a small part of Maya's mind still lingered on the doubts she had pushed aside. Was she truly ready for this? Could she really open her heart to someone again? The past always had a way of catching up with her, reminding her of her fears. Maybe we could grab dinner sometime, Adam suggested, his voice tentative. Maya hesitated. She wasn't sure if she could trust her emotions yet, but there was something about Adam that made her want to say yes. Yeah, she said softly, smiling despite the uncertainty that still clung to her. Dinner sounds good. They exchanged a quick smile, but as Maya walked away, her heart fluttered with both excitement and fear. She had agreed to take the first step, but she wasn't sure if she was ready for the road ahead. The future was uncertain, and the doubts still lingered. But for the first time in a long while, Maya allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, this time, things would be different. Maya wasn't sure what to expect when Adam had suggested dinner. She had agreed, but now that the night was here, the butterflies in her stomach felt more like a swarm. It wasn't the excitement of being with him that made her nervous, but the weight of her own doubts, the walls she had built so carefully around her heart. Could she really open up to him, or was she just setting herself up for more heartbreak? The restaurant he had chosen was small, quiet, with soft jazz playing in the background. There was a warmth to it, but also a calm that made her feel out of place. They sat at a corner table by the window, the city lights outside reflecting off the glass. It was supposed to be a casual date, but Maya could already feel the tension thickening the air between them. "I'm glad you agreed to come," Adam said, his voice low. But his eyes were full of that same soft intensity she remembered from the coffee shop. "I was worried you'd change your mind." Maya smiled, a little unsure. "I almost did," she confessed, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "But I'm here now." Adam chuckled, the sound warm and easy. "I'm glad," he said, his gaze softening. "You don't know how much I've been looking forward to this." For a moment, the world outside the restaurant faded away, and Maya found herself caught in the depth of his eyes. But as quickly as the moment came, she pulled herself back, the weight of her past making her feel like she needed to guard herself. She wasn't sure if she was ready to let someone in, especially someone who seemed to understand her in a way no one else had. They made small talk at first, asking about work, family, their favorite books, and movies. But the conversation was interrupted by awkward silences now and then, as if neither of them knew what to say next. Maya could feel the pull between them, the undeniable connection that was there. But there was also a hesitation, an unspoken tension, that neither of them seemed able to break. "So, Adam said, breaking the silence as their waiter set down their food. "How's work going?" Maya took a deep breath before answering. "It's fine. Busy, you know, but it's manageable." "Good," Adam said, nodding. "I get that. Work's been pretty hectic for me too." They both fell quiet again, the small talk feeling forced. Maya pushed her food around on her plate, avoiding Adam's gaze for a moment. The tension between them was starting to feel suffocating, and she didn't know how to fix it. She was terrified that she was ruining this. That maybe, despite everything, they weren't meant to be. Adam seemed to sense the shift. "You're quiet tonight," he said, his voice gentle. "Is everything okay?" Maya looked up at him, her eyes meeting his, and for the first time that night, she felt a flicker of truth in her chest. She wasn't okay. She hadn't been okay for a long time. The weight of her past still clung to her, wrapping itself around her heart, preventing her from moving forward. She wanted to be open with him, but she couldn't bring herself to say the words. I'm not sure what I'm doing here," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been hurt before, and I don't know if I can trust myself enough to trust you." Adam's face softened, his expression understanding. "I get that," he said quietly. "I've been hurt too. But I don't want to just keep going through life avoiding what could be good because of what happened in the past." Maya nodded slowly, but the weight of her own emotions was still too heavy to shake off. "It's just hard," she said. "I don't know how to let go of it." There was a long pause, and for a moment it felt like the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for something to change. Adam reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers gently. The contact was soft, tentative, but it was enough to make her heart flutter. "We don't have to have everything figured out right now," he said. "We can take it slow. But I don't want you to feel like you have to carry all of that on your own." Maya's throat tightened at his words. She hadn't expected him to say that, to be so understanding. But it only made her fear her own emotions even more. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to let myself be happy again." Adam squeezed her hand gently, his gaze never leaving hers. "You don't have to know everything. We can figure it out together." There was a comfort in his words, a promise that made Maya feel a little lighter, but still she couldn't fully shake the doubt that lingered in the back of her mind. Could she really trust him? Could she trust herself? The night went on, the awkward silences eventually giving way to more laughter, more real connection. They shared stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. For a moment, Maya allowed herself to forget the walls she had built and just enjoy the time they were spending together. But then, just as the evening was starting to feel more comfortable, her phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen and her heart sank. It was her mom. "I'm sorry," Maya said, her voice apologetic as she picked up the phone. "I have to take this. It's important." Adam nodded, a slight frown tugging at the corners of his lips. "Of course," he said, sitting back in his chair. "Take your time." Maya stepped outside, her heart still racing. The conversation with her mom was brief, but the news was enough to make her feel like the ground was slipping out from under her. She hung up the phone, trying to steady her breathing. When she returned to the table, Adam was looking at her with concern. "Is everything okay?" he asked softly. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, it's fine. But I think I should go. Something came up." Adam's face fell slightly, and for a moment, the connection between them seemed to falter. "Okay," he said quietly. "I understand." Maya stood up, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She didn't want the night to end like this, with more uncertainty hanging in the air. But she didn't know how to stay, not when there was so much she still needed to figure out. "I'm really sorry," she said, her voice soft but sincere. "I had a great time tonight, but I don't think I'm ready for more just yet." Adam's eyes softened, and he nodded, standing up as well. "I understand. I'll walk you out." They left the restaurant together, the night air cool and quiet around them. Maya's heart ached with the weight of her own uncertainty, and as they reached her car, Adam turned to her. "I don't want to give up on this," he said quietly, his voice full of sincerity. "I really think there's something here." Maya looked at him, her chest tightening. She didn't know what the future held, but something inside her told her that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't ready to give up either. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I'll think about it." With that, they parted ways, the night ending on a note of uncertainty. Yet still, the spark between them lingered in the air. Maya drove home, a mind racing with the possibility of what could be. Maya sat on the edge of her couch, the fingers wrapped around a cup of lukewarm coffee. The apartment felt colder than it had in weeks, and it had nothing to do with the temperature. The silence between her and Adam had stretched on longer than she cared to admit. She stared at her phone, half expecting a message from him, but nothing came. It had been 2 days since their last conversation, 2 days since that heated argument over something so trivial, something that shouldn't have mattered. But it did. She had known from the beginning that love wasn't going to be easy for her. There was too much baggage, too many walls she had built around herself after years of heartbreak. But with Adam, it had felt different. It had felt right, even when everything inside her screamed to run. He had made her feel something again, something she had thought was lost forever. But now, after everything that had happened, she wasn't sure if she could keep going. The argument had started with something small, an offhand comment about their plans for the weekend. Maya had been exhausted from work, and Adam had been frustrated over something at home. The words flew out faster than either of them could stop, each one sharper than the last. It was the same story every time, small misunderstandings growing into something bigger, and neither of them knowing how to stop it before it got out of hand. She had tried to explain herself, tried to tell him that it wasn't about what he had said, but about how she had been feeling lately. But Adam hadn't listened. He hadn't really listened. He had gotten defensive, and in the heat of the moment, Maya had snapped. The things she had said, things she never meant, lingered in her mind, and she knew that once the words were out, they couldn't be taken back. After the argument, there had been silence. No calls, no texts, no apologies. It was as if the connection they had built so carefully had snapped in an instant, leaving a void between them that neither knew how to fill. Maya hated that it had come to this, hated that she was starting to pull away again, but she couldn't help it. She had done this before, pushed people away before they could hurt her, before they could get too close. And it was easier that way. She thought about Adam, about the way he had looked at her that night when he had left. There had been a quiet sadness in his eyes, but also something else, something more uncertain. He hadn't asked her to stay, hadn't begged her to fix it. And maybe that was the problem. Maybe she had expected him to fight for her, and when he didn't, it felt like he had given up. But the truth was, it wasn't just him. It was her too. She had been so afraid of being vulnerable, of opening up to him completely, that she had pushed him away. Her phone buzzed, and she snapped out of her thoughts, staring down at the screen. It was a message from Adam. Her heart skipped a beat, and she hesitated before opening it. "Hey, can we talk?" The simple message stirred something deep inside her, a mix of hope and fear. She had wanted this, had wanted him to reach out, but now that it was happening, she wasn't sure she was ready to face him. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she debated what to say. She wanted to ask him how he was, to explain everything, but she didn't know where to start. She felt like they had reached a point where words didn't mean anything anymore. The damage had already been done. Instead of responding immediately, Maya put her phone down and stood up, walking to the window. She looked out at the city below, the lights twinkling in the distance. Everything felt so far away, as if she were on the outside looking in. But then she thought about Adam again, about how he had made her feel seen, how he had opened up to her in a way no one had before. He had been patient with her, understanding in ways that had surprised her. And now, here she was, ready to give up on something that had only just begun. She shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts. She couldn't keep doing this, pulling away every time things got hard. But the fear was there, a constant ache in her chest. The fear of being hurt again. Her phone buzzed again, and she picked it up without thinking. This time, it was a call from him. Adam's name flashed on the screen, and Maya's heart raced. She stared at it for a long moment, her finger hovering over the decline button. She wanted to pick up, wanted to hear his voice, but the thought of facing him, of facing everything they had yet to resolve, was too much. Taking a deep breath, Maya answered the call, her voice shaky, as she said, "Hello." "Maya," Adam said, his voice low and hesitant. "Can we talk?" She could hear the uncertainty in his voice, and it made her stomach tighten. "I don't know if we should," she said, her words coming out more harshly than she intended. "I'm not sure what there is left to talk about." "Maya, please," he said, his tone softening. "I know we've been through some rough patches, but I don't want to give up on us. I don't want to walk away from this." Maya's breath caught in her throat. She could hear the sincerity in his voice, but it didn't change the fact that she wasn't sure if she could keep going. She had felt so much so quickly, and now it was all unraveling, and she didn't know how to fix it. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Adam," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "I keep pushing you away because I'm scared of getting hurt. I don't know if I can let myself be vulnerable with you." There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and for a moment, Maya thought he might hang up. But then he spoke again, his voice quiet and steady. "I get it," he said softly. "I'm scared too, but I'm willing to try. I don't want to lose you." Maya closed her eyes, tears threatening to fall. She hadn't expected him to say that. She hadn't expected him to fight for her, but here he was trying. And it made her feel like maybe, just maybe, they weren't as lost as she thought. "I don't know if I'm ready, Adam," she said quietly. but I don't want to walk away either. I understand, he replied, his voice full of understanding. But we have to be honest with each other. We can't keep pushing each other away, or we'll never get anywhere. Maya's heart ached as she nodded, even though he couldn't see her. She didn't have all the answers, and she wasn't sure if they could make it work. But in that moment, she realized she wasn't ready to give up on him. Not yet. I'm scared, Adam, she whispered. But I'll try. I'll try to be honest with you. There was a brief pause, and then Adam's voice came through the phone, full of relief. That's all I'm asking for, Maya. We'll figure this out together. Maya took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be perfect. But maybe that was okay. Maybe, for the first time, they could take things slow, let the walls come down, and learn to trust each other, without the fear of what might happen. For now, it was enough. Adam sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his phone in his hands. The screen was dark, but his mind was racing. He couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened with Maya. Their conversations, their arguments, the way things felt like they were slipping through his fingers. He had always been good at pretending things didn't bother him, at hiding behind jokes or distractions, but this time he couldn't escape it. Maya had changed everything. She had made him feel things he didn't know he was capable of feeling. And now, after everything, he wasn't sure if she still felt the same way. He had spent the last few days trying to figure out what went wrong. He replayed their last conversation in his head over and over, searching for the exact moment where things had started to fall apart. He realized it wasn't just the argument, it was the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of getting too close, the fear of caring too much. Adam had always been careful with his emotions. He had learned early on that opening up to people only led to disappointment. He had seen it with his parents, his friends, even his past relationships. So when he met Maya, he had tried to keep his guard up, even though every part of him wanted to let it down. He hadn't realized how much he had let her in until it was almost too late. Now, sitting alone in his room, Adam felt a pang of regret. He should have been more honest with her. He should have told her how much he cared, how much he needed her. Instead, he had pushed her away, let his insecurities get the better of him. And now, he wasn't sure if he could fix it. His phone buzzed, and Adam's heart skipped a beat. He grabbed it, hoping it was a message from Maya, but it was a notification from his best friend, Jake. "You good, man? Haven't heard from you in a while. You and Maya okay?" Adam stared at the message, then quickly typed back. "Not really sure, to be honest. Things got messy." "Yeah, I figured. You've been distant lately. I think you need to talk to her, man. Get things off your chest. She's important to you, right?" Adam sighed, rubbing his face. "Yeah, she is. I just don't know if she still wants to hear from me." Jake's reply came almost immediately. "You'll never know until you try. Don't let fear ruin something good. Trust me, I've been there." Adam stared at the screen, his fingers hovering over the keys. He thought about what Jake had said, about the fear that had been holding him back. He couldn't keep living in the past, couldn't keep letting his insecurities control his actions. If he wanted something real with Maya, he had to take the risk. He had to reach out, no matter how afraid he was. Taking a deep breath, Adam sent a message to Maya. "I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" It was simple, but it felt like a huge leap. His heart raced as he stared at the message, waiting for her reply. A minute passed. Then 2. Then 5. Adam felt his chest tighten as doubt began to creep in. Maybe she had moved on. Maybe she didn't want to see him anymore. But then finally his phone buzzed. "I think we need to talk too. Where do you want to meet?" Adam let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He quickly typed back, setting a time and place, and then put his phone down. He felt a mix of relief and nervousness. He had done it. He had taken the first step. Now he had to face whatever came next. Maya stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her hair was messy from sleep, and her eyes looked tired, but she didn't care. She wasn't thinking about how she looked. She was thinking about Adam. It had been a few days since their last conversation. A few days since she had felt that familiar ache in her chest, the one that came from pushing him away. She had been replaying everything in her mind, wondering if she had made a mistake, if she had been too quick to shut him out. The truth was, she missed him. She missed the way he made her laugh, the way he listened to her like she was the only person in the world. She missed the way he made her feel safe, like she didn't have to be anyone else but herself. But there was also a part of her that was still afraid. Afraid of getting hurt. Afraid of trusting again. Maya had been down this road before, and it never ended well. She had given pieces of herself to people, only to have them slip through her fingers, leaving her with nothing but empty promises and broken trust. She wasn't sure if she could go through that again. But as she stood there, looking at herself in the mirror, she realized something. She had been running for so long, hiding from her own feelings, that she had forgotten what it felt like to actually care about someone, to let someone in, to be vulnerable. She didn't want to be afraid anymore. She didn't want to keep pushing people away out of fear, not when it came to Adam, not when he had been the one to show her what it meant to be open, to be honest. She grabbed her phone from the counter and saw that she had a message from Adam. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened it. "I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" Maya felt a rush of emotions. She had been waiting for this moment, for him to reach out. But now that it was here, she wasn't sure if she was ready. Was she really ready to open up, to face everything that had been holding her back? She hesitated for a moment, then typed back, "I think we need to talk too. Where do you want to meet?" As soon as she hit send, a wave of nervous energy washed over her. She was taking a step, a big step, and she wasn't sure what would come of it. But one thing was certain, she couldn't keep running from her feelings. She had to face them. Later that afternoon, Maya walked into the cafe, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Adam. He was sitting at a small table by the window, looking just as nervous as she felt. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that only came after two people had been through something together, after they had both felt the weight of unspoken words. Maya walked over and sat down across from him, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know where to start, what to say. But she knew one thing. She couldn't let fear control her anymore. Adam smiled softly, his eyes filled with uncertainty. "Hi." "Hi," Maya replied, her voice quiet but steady. She took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About us. About what happened." "I have too," Adam said. "And I know I messed up. I didn't handle things the way I should have." Maya nodded. "I didn't either. I pushed you away because I was scared. Scared of getting hurt. But I've been thinking, and I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to keep running." Adam reached across the table and took her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "I don't want to run either. I'm ready to try, Maya. I don't want to let fear stop us." Maya looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. Maybe it wouldn't be easy. Maybe there would be bumps along the way. But they were here together, and that was a start. "I'm ready to try too," she whispered. Maya walked into the cafe, her heart beating a little faster than usual. It had been a few weeks since that moment they had shared, where everything had felt so raw and honest between her and Adam. Since then, they had both been working on themselves, trying to understand what they wanted, what they needed. Things had started to feel different, but they were still fragile, still uncertain. But they were trying. Adam was already there, sitting at their usual table near the window. He looked up as she entered, and his face lit up with a smile that made Maya's heart skip. It had always been his smile that had drawn her in, that warmth that made everything seem a little less complicated. "Hey," Maya said softly as she approached the table, taking a seat across from him. "Hey," Adam replied, his smile soft but genuine. "You look good." Maya felt her cheeks warm at the compliment, but it didn't feel awkward. It felt real. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she had to hide behind a mask, pretending to be something she wasn't. She was just Maya, sitting here with Adam, both of them trying to rebuild what they had once almost lost. They ordered coffee, their conversation light at first, talking about nothing and everything at the same time. The weather, the city, their work, things that felt so mundane but comforting. Every now and then their eyes would meet, and there would be that moment, the kind where everything else faded away, and it was just the two of them, silently acknowledging the unspoken things between them. But as comfortable as it was, the truth was that things weren't perfect. There were still things they hadn't fully addressed, things they hadn't fully figured out. Like how Adam still felt the weight of his past mistakes, how Maya struggled with trusting herself and others. They were still walking a tightrope, trying to find their balance again. "So, how have you been?" Maya asked, taking a sip of her coffee, her fingers tracing the rim of the cup. "Better," Adam said, leaning back in his chair. "I've been working on it. I know I have a lot of stuff to work through, but I'm trying." Maya nodded, her eyes softening. "Me too. I've been talking to a friend of mine about everything. About us, just trying to understand what went wrong." "You don't have to explain anything to me, Maya," Adam said quickly. "I get it. We both have baggage." "I just don't want to mess this up again," she confessed, her voice quiet but steady. "I don't want to be afraid of what could happen. I've been holding back, and I don't know if I should anymore." Adam reached across the table, his hand resting on hers. His touch was light, but it sent a wave of warmth through her. "I don't want to hold back either, but I also don't want to make the same mistakes." Maya looked down at their hands, her fingers brushing against his. She could feel the hesitation in the way he held her hand, the uncertainty of someone who had been hurt before, who wasn't sure if they could trust again. And she understood that. She had been there herself. She had spent so much of her life closing herself off from others, afraid of getting hurt, afraid of what might happen if she let someone in completely. "I know," she said softly. "I get it. I'm just scared that I'm going to mess it up. I've done that so many times before." "You're not the only one with fears," Adam said, his voice a little more serious now. "I have them too. I'm just trying to learn how to deal with them. To be honest about what I want, what I need. And I want this, Maya. I really do. I want us to try." Maya felt a rush of relief at his words. She had been waiting for him to say something like that, for him to finally admit that he wanted to be with her too. And now that he had, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't perfect. There were still things they needed to work through, but this felt real. "We'll figure it out," Maya said, her voice steady. "One step at a time." "Yeah," Adam agreed, his smile returning. "One step at a time." They spent the rest of the afternoon together, talking more openly than they had in the past, sharing their fears and hopes for the future. For the first time, Maya didn't feel the need to hide her true feelings. She didn't feel like she had to pretend that everything was okay when it wasn't. She could just be herself, and Adam, he was doing the same. But just as they were beginning to feel like they were back on solid ground, something unexpected happened. Adam's phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. His face immediately changed, his eyes narrowing slightly as he read the message. Maya felt a pang of unease as she watched him. "Is everything okay?" Adam hesitated before looking back at her. "It's work," he said slowly. "I've got an offer. The job opportunity. It's in another city. It's big, and it could mean a lot for my career. Maya blinked, processing the words. She hadn't expected this. A job offer. She had known Adam was ambitious, but she hadn't realized how much it would affect them. "You're thinking about taking it?" Maya asked, her voice quiet, a hint of apprehension creeping in. "I don't know," Adam admitted, running a hand through his hair. "It's a great opportunity, but it means leaving. Moving away. And I don't want to make this harder than it has to be." Maya's heart dropped. The timing couldn't have been worse. They were just starting to reconnect, just starting to rebuild what they had almost lost, and now this. Another obstacle that threatened to tear them apart. "I don't know what to say," Maya whispered, her mind racing. "I don't want to hold you back, Adam. If this is what you need to do, then—" Adam shook his head, cutting her off. "I don't know if I'm ready to leave. I don't know if I want to choose between my career and you." The weight of the situation hung heavy between them, the uncertainty and the tension palpable. Just as things had started to feel like they were falling into place, the future seemed to loom over them like a dark cloud. Neither of them knew what would come next. Would Adam take the job? Would they be able to make it work, no matter the distance? Neither of them had the answers, but for the first time in a long time, they both knew one thing. They were willing to try, even if it meant facing the hardest decision of their lives. Adam sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the job offer on his phone screen. It had been days since that conversation with Maya, and the weight of the decision still hung heavily on his shoulders. The city he'd always dreamed of working in, the career opportunity he had worked so hard to achieve, was within his reach. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized what it meant. It meant leaving everything behind, leaving her behind. He had never been good at making decisions that felt so big, so life-changing. It wasn't that he didn't care about his career. He did, deeply, but for the first time in his life, something else mattered more. Maya. He remembered their conversation earlier in the week. The way her eyes had softened when he told her about the job. The way she had tried so hard to hide the disappointment in her voice. She had said all the right things, of course. "If it's what you need to do, Adam," she had said, "I won't hold you back." But he knew her too well. She was holding back too, trying to protect herself from something she feared. The fear of losing him. And now here he was, torn between two paths. One was the dream he had worked for all these years. The other was the possibility of a future with Maya. A future that, despite the bumps along the way, felt right. His phone buzzed in his hand, and he saw Maya's name pop up on the screen. His heart skipped a beat. He hadn't talked to her in a couple of days. She had been giving him space to think, but he knew it wasn't easy for her. He had seen the look in her eyes when they had said goodbye. It was the look of someone who was afraid to hope too much, afraid that the happiness they were finally starting to build would slip away just like before. He tapped the screen to answer. "Hey." "Maya," she said softly, her voice hesitant. "Can we talk?" "Of course," Adam replied, his throat tight. He knew this conversation had to happen. They were at a crossroads now, both of them waiting for the other to make the next move. They agreed to meet at their usual spot, the park where they had shared so many of their conversations, the place where they had met, where they had first seen the spark of something real between them. Adam arrived first, sitting on the bench near the fountain, his mind racing as he waited for her. The air was cool, but there was a heaviness in the silence around him. He knew what was coming. Maya walked toward him, her steps slow but determined. She was wearing a soft sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful, but there was a sadness in her eyes. When she sat beside him, there was a brief moment of silence. They both knew this was it, the moment that would define everything. "Maya, I've been thinking a lot about everything," Adam said, his voice low. "About the job offer, about us. And I know I have to make a decision. I can't keep going back and forth." Maya nodded, her hands folded in her lap. I know, Adam. I've been thinking too. It's not an easy decision. It's never been easy with us, has it? She laughed quietly, but there was no joy in it. We've always had something getting in the way, something pulling us apart, whether it was fear or doubts or timing. Adam turned to look at her, his heart aching. I don't want to walk away from you. I don't want to leave this behind. I've been scared. I've been scared of messing things up, of not being enough, of losing myself in this. But when I think about it, I don't want to walk away from us. Not again. Maya's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but she smiled softly. I'm scared too, Adam. I've been so afraid of getting hurt again, of loving you and then losing you. But I can't keep letting fear decide everything for me. I can't keep running from the possibility of something real between us. Adam reached out and took her hand in his, the warmth of her touch calming the storm inside him. So what do we do? How do we fix this? We can't keep pretending like everything is fine when we know it's not. Maya squeezed his hand, her voice steady now. We don't fix it, Adam. We build it. We build something new together. We don't know what the future holds, but we know we're here, right now. And that's all we can do. We take it one step at a time. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time he felt certain. Not about the job, not about anything outside of this moment, but about her. About them. About the love that had never gone away, even when they both tried to ignore it. I don't want to leave, Maya, Adam whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I want to stay here with you. I want to make this work. I'm ready. Maya smiled, the tears finally spilling over. I'm ready too, Adam. I've always been ready. I just needed to believe that you were too. There was a long pause as they sat together, their hands intertwined. The world seemed to fall away, and in that moment there was nothing but the two of them, the promise of something beautiful, something worth fighting for. But then reality crept back in. Adam's phone buzzed again, and he glanced at the screen. It was from the recruiter, the final offer. His heart pounded in his chest. This was the moment of truth, the moment where he had to make the choice that would shape his future. Maya watched him, her eyes steady, waiting for him to make the decision. She wasn't going to ask him to stay. She wasn't going to hold him back if he thought this was his only chance. But she wanted him to know, more than anything, that she was ready for whatever came next, as long as they were together. He looked back at her, the decision clear in his mind. He hit the decline button on the offer and put his phone down. I choose you, Maya, Adam said, his voice unwavering. I choose us. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Tears filled her eyes as she leaned in, kissing him softly. The kiss was a promise that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. The world could be uncertain, but in that moment they knew they had something real, something worth fighting for. And for the first time in a long time, they both felt a sense of peace, knowing that the hardest part was over. They had made the choice to love each other, and that was all they needed to begin their journey together.